Hey there, it's CJ Willie and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack number 5 in my science project of cracking a 1990 top cello box. Check out my preview video for the explanation on how the science project will test the theory to see if I can build a complete set from a cello box. I've added a link to my 1990 top cello box preview video in the description below with all of the packs I crack. I'm going to share my thoughts and memories about some of the players or cards. After I've cracked the pack, I'm going to choose the best card of the pack. It doesn't mean it has to be a rookie, superstar, or Hall of Famer. It can be just a funny photo, something interesting about the player, or maybe some memory I had of the player back in the day. Okay, here we go, cracking pack number 5. So we've got the cello box in front of us, and we are to number 5. So let's see what we get out of pack number 5. Alright, so if you saw the previous opening, pack number 4, we had a nice pull. So go and check out that video for pack number 4 and see the cool card that we picked up. So as usual, the gum is slid right out, which is a nice sign. It hasn't shown any gum stains to the wax pack. The other thing that I like is that the gum, I can get to the middle of the pack. Maybe I'll have to do that later. The gum is sitting in between the promo card and the last card. So that's one thing I like about cello packs is you typically don't have wax stains, and if the gum is placed just right, you don't end up with a gum stain either. All right, first card, Brian Holman. Came up as a starting pitcher with the Mariners, pretty much spent most of his time as a bulk reliever. Jeff Russell spent quite a few years as the closer for the Rangers. Alejandro Pena had an interesting career. Spent some time as a starter, spent some time as a reliever. I believe in 84, he led the National League in earned run average, ERA. Yep, 1984. Boy, good memory. Tommy Helms, manager of the Reds. I don't remember much about Tommy Helms. All-Star Craig Biggio. So this is the second All-Star Craig Biggio card that we've seen. Remember, an indication if you're going to get the no name on front, Frank Thomas, Craig Biggio is one of those indicator cards in that the black line on the inside border will be missing in this part of the card. Most people think, if you read the theories, is that the black ink was either out or something was covering the cards so that the black ink didn't get printed onto the card. Unfortunately for us, we do have the black border, and so the Frank Thomas more than likely will have the name on front. Bruce Benedict, backup catcher, starting catcher for the Braves, and then became a backup catcher. Adam Peterson, Milt Thompson. I didn't like Milt Thompson at first. Willie McGee was injured in the 1989 season. Milt Thomas came up and started some games for the Cardinals, and then once Willie McGee was traded to the A's, Milt Thompson became more of a regular outfielder for the Cardinals. Juan Nieves started out as a pretty good starting pitcher for the Brewers, but then, as you can see, injuries hit him, and he wasn't very effective after that. I believe he became a pitching coach. Mike Greenwell. We're getting some duplicates, as you can see in some of our packs. In fact, in pack number 5, looks really similar to pack number 4. We talked a lot about Mike Greenwell. Oh, and there's Frank Thomas. So if you haven't seen pack break number 4, you'll know that we got the Frank Thomas in that pack. Well, guess what? We have our second Frank Thomas. I suppose if you're going to get duplicates in your cello box, which you're already seeing by pack number 5, Frank Thomas isn't too bad of a duplicate to get. Sean Abner, number 1 draft pick of the Mets back in 1984. Tim Cruz was a pretty good relief pitcher. Unfortunately, was killed in a boating accident that claimed the life of Steve Olin, and Bob Ojeda was in that same boat wreck but survived. Ken Griffey Jr. This is right before he was traded to the Mariners. Spent some time with his son. Brett Saberhagen. I did not like Brett Saberhagen at all. His Royals defeated my Cardinals in the 1985 World Series, and that took a long time to get past. Although Brett Saberhagen had a relatively decent career, Problem is that he suffered from a lot of injuries in the early 90s, and by that time was pretty much ineffective. As we saw, our company store to get a Topps binder. Okay, so the second half of the pack. George Bell, power hitting outfielder with the Blue Jays. I really liked George Bell back in the day. A lot of his cards, early cards, had George spelled with a J. Later on, I had heard maybe he changed his name to the English spelling of George instead of going by Jorge. As you can see, Jorge Bell was born in the Dominican Republic. So I doubt his name was George. It was more like Jorge. Oh, Albert Bell. Back then, in a few of his early cards, he went by Joey Bell. I believe this is his rookie card. Yep, Albert Bell's rookie card. Benito Santiago went by Benny Santiago for quite a while. He was a pretty good catcher, really good defensive catcher. Had his ups and downs with his batting, his offense, but he had quite celebrity around him for many years as a catcher. Clay Parker, pitcher with the Yankees. Rick Leach. Interesting fact about Rick Leach. I believe that Rick Leach and Kirk Gibson were on the same college football team. I think it was the University of Michigan. And Rick Leach was a more highly touted prospect in baseball than Kirk Gibson was. Career-wise, I think Kirk Gibson had quite a bit more notoriety and did quite a bit better than Rick Leach did. Kevin Mitchell, outfielder with the Giants. He was quite a superstar for a while in those late 90, early 90 Giants teams. Lou Whitaker. Lou Whitaker, second baseman with the Tigers. I'm kind of on the fence with Lou Whitaker's Hall of Fame candidacy. I think he was a pretty good second baseman. And during his time, he paired up with Alan Trammell to make a very formidable middle infield. Alan Trammell made it into the Hall of Fame just recently with the Veterans Committee vote. Lou Whitaker was up on that same vote, didn't garner as many votes. I'm not sure if Lou Whitaker is a Hall of Famer. What I do think, though, is if Lou Whitaker is a Hall of Famer, Jeff Kent should be a Hall of Famer. So their careers were very similar. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Tom Kelly, manager for the Twins. I didn't like Tom Kelly. Same reason why I didn't like Brett Saberhagen. They just unfortunately were on the wrong team. Tom Kelly guided his team to a World Series in 1987 against my Cardinals, and then later got his second World Series title with the Twins in the 1991 World Series against the Atlanta Braves. Mike Witt, pitcher with the California Angels. He pitched a no-hitter on the final day of the 1984 season against the Texas Rangers. Basically pitched a no-hitter against a bunch of scrubs. Final day of the season, teams throughout, pretty much back then, any prospects, anyone that's just hung around with the team. So it wasn't like he was facing a bunch of A-listers. Doug Drabek. During the late 90s, early 90s, Doug Drabek was a stud workhorse with the Pirates. Basically helped them to National League East Championship Series. They never got over the hump. They had a talented team with Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke, Bobby Bonilla. They just couldn't get over the hump and make it to the World Series. Will Clark, first baseman with the Giants. Will Clark had a great start to his career. I always thought Will Clark was going to be a lot better than he was going to be. I mean, he ended up as a great player. Just wasn't at the level that I really thought he would be after his first couple of seasons with the Giants. One thing that I really liked about Will Clark, he spent the last few months of his career with the Cardinals. Mark McGwire went on the disabled list in 2000. The Cardinals traded for Will Clark from the Orioles, and Will Clark came out of the woodwork and just carried the Cardinals on his back the last few months. It would have been great to get him a World Series title. Deion James, backup outfielder. Andre Dawson, the Hawk, Hall of Famer. Andre Dawson had a great career. Had a tremendous first half of his career with the Expos as kind of a speed power hitter combo. Went to the Cubs, and then later on in his career developed into a really great power hitter. Mike Gallego, pretty much backup utility infielder with the A's for most of his career. Jeff Montgomery was the Royals closer for a few years. And our final card, Joe Bivore. He spent most of his career as pretty much an innings-eating reliever. So out of this pack, it's a little disappointing to see duplicates early enough, which makes completing our set pretty difficult. Though the duplicates that we did get included Frank Thomas rookie. Since if you've seen video number 4, I've already covered the Frank Thomas card. My favorite card that I'm going to pick out of this pack this time around, or what I think is the best card out of the pack, is going to be Doug Drabek. Doug Drabek was a great starting pitcher for the Pirates. Like I said, pretty much carried them into the postseason in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think he was a little overshadowed by the other superstars on the team. Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, Andy Van Slyke. They had a very potent team, and I hated when they faced my Cardinals because they happened to be in the same division. At this point in his career, as we'll take a look at the back real quick, Doug Drabek was on his way to superstardom. 2 pretty good years in a row. In 1990, 1991, 92, he was really the friend of the rotation. Anyway, that's our pack for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please subscribe and share. Until next time when I crack pack number 6 from my 1990 Top Cello box. Remember, this is being done for science.